All right, so this demo video will be showing you a couple of different styles of handles that you can make. Then I'm going to be attaching one of them so that you can see the process. I have a couple of main body mugs, the vessels. I'll clean this stuff up later. Clean up the bottom of this thing later. Pretty straightforward. These are done using the slab method, just like we did the mini pots. Not too much of a difference. All right, so I'm gonna start off by showing you a really straightforward C-shaped mug, handle. The process is pretty straightforward, at least to get the mug, the handle, prepped and ready. And I will start by saying that it is a slab. Very simple, nothing overly thought out about this one. I took a chunk of clay and I rolled out a slab, I believe on the dial, I'm at 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 on the dial. I rolled out my slab, both sides. I took my smoothing rib, smoothed it out, compressed it, done all the good things, all the necessary things. And then I set up a ruler to cut the width of this thing. And there's no trickery, nothing crazy. Just a nice clean cut using an X-Acto knife. I have extra for another handle if I need it. Got a little bump right there. What I will say for these types of handles is because they end up being pretty sharp on the edges, we like to soften up those corners just by taking our fingers and putting light pressure all the way across. And that's gonna give us a nice rounded corner. It's not gonna hurt our hands when we go to pick it up, and we don't have to do as much work later. Now, the important thing for this, you can see how clean that is. The important thing for these handles, I have one that's already started to set up, is that we get it to the point where it's easy enough to physically work with. As in, we want this thing to hold up so that I can put good pressure into the handle as I'm pushing it up against the mug. All right, which I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes. I'm going to show you how to make a couple of other quick handles, and then I'll attach one. Next one is going to be kind of a more simplified handle, and it's going to start with a small wad of clay. This is maybe a 1/4 pound, if that. And I'm going to start by extending it and essentially making a little bit of a coil. And again, I'm gonna keep this kind of an appropriate thickness. I'm gonna have extra after I roll this guy out. The extra that gets cut off can just very simply get placed into your bag and reused. All right, so here's where we're at. You'll notice that my coil is tapered. It's a little bit thinner towards this end. I'm gonna thin it out a little bit more. This is gonna be similar to this one right here. I gave this one kind of an angle because I'm gonna use that one to demonstrate the connection part of the process. It's gonna look very similar to all the scoring and slipping things that we've done in the past. And then what I'm gonna do for this one is take any flat surface, any wood surface, even one of your panels is going to work. And I'm gonna give it a nice, consistent press, just pressing downwards into it. And that's going to give me 2 flat sides. I got a flat side on top, and then as I lift it up off my little panel, I've got a flat side on the other side. Whenever I do this, I like to keep a little bit of extra. So I'm gonna keep that cut off right there. And this is definitely gonna be more than enough for my handle. And now again, just like I said, we do want to make sure that these things are kind of set up. We wanna make sure that once we get them built, we gotta let time do its thing. So for this handle that I'm gonna keep kind of C-shaped like that, I'm gonna put this guy outside 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And once it's set up to the point where it's not gonna take a fingerprint, this is the clay that I just used, it's not gonna take an easy fingerprint. You can see this one has been sitting out. I can pinch Nothing's gonna change anything about that. This one has a knock to it. You'll listen to the sound. This is the one I just built using that clay. It's got a thud versus a solid knock. All right, and this one is essentially ready to start working with. I can add it to the surface of this guy right here, no problem. All right, so I'm gonna set this one to the side. I'm gonna let that one set up. And I'm gonna move on to working with this one. Handles are kind of funny. We do want to make sure that they are set up, and we're looking at kind of what the angles of the things are going to be. So relative to the mug, I'm looking at the shape, the profile that I want. And then once I've kind of decided on it, I can take that, chop it off. You can see how dry that is. It's pretty gosh darn dry. And then I'm gonna cut my two ends essentially exactly where I want them to set up. And that's gonna get popped in there. Oh, it's a little gigantic. That's okay. Here, I'll do it with, yeah. I'll go right up to the edge for it, why not? Got a little bit of an angle, shave a little bit more off. Make sure that the angle's kind of right. Now this one is definitely a little bit drier than this one. It's not too bad though. I wouldn't say I'm in the danger zone. There we go. All right. So now we do the processes that we've always done. We score and slip. We're gonna blend. I'm gonna dip this into the water just because it's easier to do that. And I'm gonna scratch at the surface, expose some of that good stuff, open up the pores of the clay, as it were. I'm gonna eyeball where this guy goes. Get a little scoring. Get a little scoring down at the bottom as well. Just make sure that I'm opening it up. And I'm also gonna take slip, and I'm gonna apply some slip to the surface. So I've got that scratched, got this scratched. Get all the good stuff right there. And this is the glue that's gonna hold the thing together. And if you want, you can put a little on this side as well. Don't need it too much though, since I've got so much right here. And here's that action that I was talking about. Because this guy is so nice and stiff, I have the ability to really put some decent pressure in there. I'm supporting the clay from the inside, because this one, again, is softer than this one. And you can see that squeeze out that's so important, we've talked about in the past. And if we kind of do this properly, again, it's like setting up our angles. My mug is a little bit funny here because of the way I cut it. But as long as we can get this stuff cleaned up and we can appropriately attach and clean up our handles, then there really isn't too much more work to do at this point. I have a little paintbrush right here. I'm gonna use my paintbrush and I'm gonna soften up some of these edges. A little too much water on there. Just making sure that everything is nice and clean. Doesn't have to be perfect, because I can still clean it up later. And in real life, I've done like 90% of that work right there in that couple of minutes. Now, am I done? Absolutely not. For the mug that you guys are building, we have to work with our faces. If that's the next step, maybe you already built the face, you just have to add the handle. Maybe then at this point, you're pretty much done. I'm gonna take a little bit of water, I'm gonna soften up some of that texture that I got from the slab roller, because I don't necessarily like that. I can work with the burnishing process here to get it cleaned up. And in real life, that handle right there is strong enough to hold up the weight, there's the bell, to hold up the weight of this mug. And again, it's not done 100% yet. Still have a lot of cleanup to do. It's a pretty comfortable handle, all things considered. Got a little bit of detail work to do later on. and voila, pretty much ready to go. That's my video. Thank you.